Today, I'm gonna create the same environment in 3 minutes, 30 minutes and 3 hours. I know this has been done by a lot of different people on the internet, but it just seems like so much fun, so I just wanted to try it. I already blocked out my scene, so let's just get right into the 3 minutes. Okay, so that's my 3-minute render. It kind of looks like a shitty blockout of a scene. I only used cubes and these green cylinders as trees, but at least I managed to add an HDRI and a sun to get at least somewhat nice lighting. Now for the 30-minute render, it started pretty similar to the 3-minute render, but instead of using cylinders as trees, I used a sapling tree gen add-on. But I didn't have a lot of time to dial in the settings, so the trees still looked kinda bad, but still a lot better than the first ones. For these big rocks, I joined the blocks and remeshed them, and then slightly deformed them with the proportional editing in the edit mode. And I slapped the first rock texture I could find on my hard drive on it, and then created a particle system with a simple strand of grass. I also found some time to create a bush with the sapling tree gen add-on, which I also placed on top of the rocks with the particle system. Finally, to create the water, I put a water normal map onto the ground plane. And with that, the 30 minutes are over, and this is the render I created. It still kinda sucks, but of course it's way better than the 3-minute one. It seems like I kinda messed up the weight paint, so there's a bit of grass on the side of the rock which shouldn't be there. And in the back you can see that I didn't deform these cubes enough, so I still got these straight edges and also grass on the side. So yeah, I think 30 minutes isn't enough to create a good environment in Blender, so now let's get to the 3-hour render. At the 3-hour render I took a lot of time blocking out the scene. So I just spent like 10 to 15 minutes just moving the camera and slightly moving these blocks, and I think that was totally worth it. In the background I used the landscape generator add-on to create these mountains in the distance. So just like with the 30-minute render, I joined the cubes and remeshed them. But instead of deforming it with the proportional editing, I went into the sculpting tab. On the bottom of the big rock I added those smaller ones to make the cut between the water and the rock a bit smoother. And after a few minutes of sculpting, I exported it as an FBX and imported it into Substance Painter. There I created a material for the model and put it onto the rock in Blender. And of course I did that step for all the rocks in the scene. For the pine tree I used a cylinder to create a trunk and then imported a branch texture. I used the particle system to put the branch onto the trunk, and in the shading tab I added some translucency to the branches so light could shine through them and just make it look a bit better. For the grass I imported the texture of a blade and then created a particle system on a small round plane. Then I applied the particle system and like that I got a clump of grass. This time I spent way more time in the weight paint tab just to make sure that there's no grass on the side of the rock and just on the top where it should be. And then of course I added a particle system and with that put the grass on the top of the rocks. Just like for the 30-minute render, I used the sapling tree gen add-on to create a bush. But instead of using the standard leaves, I imported a leaf texture. Because the scene was looking a bit boring, I changed the mood to a sunset. So I just rotated the sun, made it red and imported a different HDRI. And for the final hour or so I just added more and more details, like a lot of smaller rocks in the middle of the lake, just to make the scene look a bit more believable. And then the 3 hours were over. So here is my final render of this video. I'm actually pretty happy how it turned out, because 3 hours isn't that much, but it just shows my point of this video, which is set a deadline for every work you do. If I wouldn't have had this 3-hour deadline for this artwork, I most likely wouldn't have been able to work so concentrated for the 3 hours straight. And this applies with almost everything you do in life. Like when you always have in the back of your mind that you can do it tomorrow, you're probably not gonna do it. But if you know that your work has to be done in a few hours from now, you'll probably be able to work way more concentrated on your work. So I'd recommend you to always set deadlines for your work, which should be ambitious but also realistic. Like if you say I'm gonna make a short film in a day, that's of course not gonna work. But if you say, like me, I'm gonna create one environment for my short film in the next 5 hours, then from my experience there's a good chance that you'll actually be able to do it. And with that I'm gonna end this video for today. Thanks for watching till the end and bye.